Dave Scott Hub Media. I'm joined by my friend Cassandra, who I haven't talked to in so long. She's had this incredible story that she's gone through since last May, and I finally get a chance to sit down and talk with her about it. First of all, I got to say I'm super proud of you. Thanks for doing this and taking the time today. Tell folks where all this began, because it's a tough story, but I want to share it with people, and I hope you do too.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you for having me. It's been kind of one of my motivators to share my story with people because I think it's really important. So I, about a year ago, was scheduled for a routine physical with my physician. It was postponed. I should have had one at 50, but it was postponed because of COVID. So I went in at 51. And just having a discussion with my doctor, said, I'm probably due for a mammogram, a routine mammogram. There weren't any real concerns. There was nothing kind of pressing or alerts to say maybe I should do it sooner than later. I did have a baseline mammogram when I was 45, and so it was just time. And so that was scheduled in June of last year. And when I went in for my initial mammogram, I got a call back the very next day asking if I could return because they wanted to do a contrast mammogram. They said there was some suspicious spots that they wanted to kind of get a better look at. So went in for that, got called back again. They wanted to do some biopsies on some of the spots. And the results were that there was atypical tissue, which is not cancerous, but they wanted to remove it before it did turn to cancerous. So there were two spots that they were looking at. So I was set up for a lumpectomy with a surgeon in September of this past fall. The day before surgery, the surgeon called me and said, hey, listen, we wanted to get a closer look at one of the other spots. We want to do more biopsies. So my surgery was canceled, got called in for more biopsies, of which it was returned that I had breast cancer. Initially and still now, it was stage 2 breast cancer. So I got referred to Juravinski in Hamilton to talk about having a single mastectomy. We ended up deciding on doing a double mastectomy last fall because breast cancer does run in my mom's side of the family. And so just me being me, I didn't ever want to go through this again. I didn't want to get one side done and have to go back and have the other side. So on October 20th, I had a double mastectomy with the beginning of reconstructive surgery. So they had set some expanders in to start the reconstruction process. And that was supposed to be it. Part of the reason a mastectomy was chosen was because then I wouldn't have had to do radiation. So I had surgery. 3 weeks later, I went back in for a checkup. And my mastectomy surgeon said she had some bad news, that the lymph nodes that they pulled out actually contained more cancer. So it had now spread outside of the original site, that I actually had 2 different breast cancers, 2 different spots. One was a slow growing and one was a faster growing breast cancer. And the faster growing breast cancer, which was a teeny spot, somehow managed to make it to my lymph nodes. So they were very concerned about that. So starting in December, I went through chemotherapy, 4 rounds of chemotherapy every 3 weeks. And then after that, I had 16 rounds of radiation, which was completed on April Fool's. So my treatments are done. It does not mean that it's kind of the end of the road for me as far as where you're concerned, because with breast cancer, there's really no follow-up procedures to keep an eye on things. So it's, you sit, you worry a little bit, but onward and upward with life. I get to go back to work and resume normal things. So that's great.
Can we step back a little bit too, because there's some points in there I want to ask you about. And the first thing I want to say is I've known you a long time. You're always in great shape. You're athletic. You keep busy. You eat right. You and your partner Jamie are always busy doing things. So when I found out that you were having this battle, I was like, wait, no way, man! Like, not Cassandra. You're always you're that person that's always out there doing things and keeping busy. Um, Psychologically, when you're getting your physical and you're like, yeah, everything's cool, everything's good, and all of a sudden this information comes to you. I know you as a positive person. Did you stay that positive, or did things kind of go, uh-oh, what was going on? I mean, there's probably different phases of it as you went through, but can you talk a little bit about that, just sort of the mental side of how you approached all this?
Yeah, you know what? It was, of course, a huge blow. I mean, I remember exactly where I was sitting and how it felt. And when I heard the words cancer, everything after that sounded like Charlie Brown talking. I wasn't taking it in. All I kept thinking is, I just want to go. I just want to go. I just want to get out of here. Because I went alone thinking, this is going to be nothing. Like, this is going to be nothing. I'm sure I'm fine. My husband and I owned a fitness facility. And part of that, I think, really helped me. So we did not just a fitness facility, but we had CrossFit,
Yeah.
which is a huge mental game. It is, anyone that's done something like that or taken on a really big running, right? Ultra marathons, anything like that.
It's the training.
Yeah. You really develop a mental capacity for, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, break it down step by step. How am I going to do this? And so I think that really helped me and my husband both go, okay, this is ahead of us. There was a lot of unknown things ahead of us when we found out that it was indeed breast cancer. But it was really, okay, well, what are you going to do? You've got to get through. You've got to do one step at a time. There were moments of tears and frustration, and I won't say why me, because I don't feel like that ever really, I feel like it was, why did this happen? Not why me, because you can get really stuck. You can get really stuck in the negative stuff. And so I kept thinking about, in the gym that we had this saying up on the wall, and it said in great big black letters, embrace the suck. And it was, I kept revisiting that. You know what? This is not fun. But I'm not the first person to go through this. I'm not going to be the last person to go through this. Embrace the suck. Embrace what this is. Take one step at a time, and know that you've got professionals that have done this before. They know what they're doing. They're going to not mislead you. And I really feel like one of the things that kept coming to me was, life is going to pass you by no matter what you do. It's going to pass. You're going to wake up every day and you're going to get stuck at a red light, or you're going to have somebody cut you off, or you're going to get fired from a job. Crappy things are going to happen, and you're not going to enjoy them. But that's for everybody. It's not just happening to you. It's happening to other people. Everyone has their issues. And I kept thinking, you have a choice, Cassandra. You get up each day and you find the good. You find the positive. You find the happy. You find the people around you to support you. You make this the best that you can make it, because it's going to happen. Whether every day is going to happen, every week's going to happen, every month, every year. Life passes, and you have a choice every day to get up and make it the best.
It's interesting that I never really thought about it in those terms, but you're right, because when you're training for something outside of cancer, it's not nearly the same. I get that, but I mean, you can put all that focus and energy in, and you kind of make everything level. Like, in your mind, everything comes to this point where you're, like you said, I'm going to get through this. How am I going to do this? I need to stay calm, and I need to be realistic in my goals. Wow, that's I'm glad that was there for you. That you guys said, you sort of instilled that. Was it hard to carry on in that everyday aspect as you went through this? Then, I mean, you're talking to Jamie about this. You've got your kids. Like, you've got to. I know you want to keep that sense of balance, right? You want to keep that, I'm okay, let's just get on with it. Let's do it, right?
Yeah.
That must have been hard.
It's, you know what? It's ebbs and flows, right? You have days where you wake up and it's good days. You have days when you wake up and you get, bad news. That's not what you were looking for. And I think learning to just be okay with where you're at, really just kind of being okay. This isn't what I wanted, right? I was hoping it was just a lumpectomy and it was going to be done and over. And then it just kept progressively what felt like getting worse and worse news. But you know what? It's those baby steps. It's like, okay, I don't need to get ahead. I don't need to figure out how next month is going to be. I just need to figure out how I'm going to get through today, this week. Yeah. And we had amazing amazing support system. We have so many incredible, wonderful people in our lives that just really stepped up to plate for us and really helped us not worry about some of the little things.
I was just going to ask you about that. So you're going through this tumultuous time in your life. And one of the things I found when I had my illness was, and forgive me, folks, you don't worry about the little shit anymore, do you?
Not at all. You know what? It really turns a different perspective. Yeah. Yeah.
How did that affect you long term? Like after, you're all done your treatments, do you still feel that way now? Is it still that ongoing, I'm not going to worry about that today?
Oh, even more so. You know what? It's just, honestly, you celebrate getting through each stage of that crappiness. You are, okay, surgery's done and I'm recovered. Yes. Okay. Now chemo's done. I'm recovered. Yes. Okay. Now I only have radiation and there's an end in sight. And then once that's done, you really kind of stop. You have time to stop and look around and really, my kids will tell you that I'm a much different mom. Now I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Oh, you got a dent in my car door. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's just a dent. It really is just the little things that bring me so much joy.
It's funny how that changes when you're going in for surgery. Can you talk a bit about that? That day's arrives and you have to go through all this. Was there any animosity? Were you having doubts? Were you okay? Let's get this done. Did you stick to your game plan?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I was a little nervous getting up in the morning, and I do remember that. But as the day went on, I trusted. I trusted that I was where I needed to be, that I was doing all the things that I needed to do. Because you also know me well enough to know that I don't do anything halfway. It was like, let's go. Let's do this. Let's go. I was pretty calm in the pre-op stages, even up until they came to say, okay, it's time. And they handed me my IV bag and I'm like, wait, you're not even gonna wheel me in? I have to walk myself down? And they were like, yep. So, I was pretty calm. Obviously, I think Jamie was a little bit more worried. My husband was a little bit more worried. But I just had that mindset of like, let's just get through. Like, this is just one of the steps. I just got to get through and I'm going to be okay. I really didn't let, I think, doubt creep in too far because it doesn't serve anybody.
No, it's not going to help you. Was there any physical pain or anything at getting to that stage? Like you said, you didn't feel anything. You didn't notice anything.
Yeah, no, I didn't really. Obviously we get older and things change a little bit, but I didn't really have. There wasn't like a lump that I said I better get this looked at. After the fact, when they said, okay, you've got 2 lumps. One was only 3 millimeters, so the size of a Q-tip, really tiny. The other one was about the size of a dime. I didn't really feel either one of them specifically until after, when I knew that that's where they were kind of biopsying. Then you start kind of paying a little bit deeper attention. But I really had no symptoms. I wasn't feeling bad. That was kind of the frustrating part, right? Like we were healthy. We eat well. We exercise. Yeah. You think you do all the right things, and it still happened.
So you come out of this surgery. Has the outlook changed? Your body's changed, and are you just like, okay, let's keep going?
Yeah, you know what? We were out of surgery, and I thought at that point we were out of the woods. I thought that we were going to just be done and press forward. And so 3 weeks later, when we got the results of all of the lab work, because they go in and they test all the tissue that they received to make sure. It turns out that it was a pretty good thing. They did the opposite side as well, because there was atypical tissue found in my good side. So it would have eventually become cancerous as well. So, it was like, okay, we made the right call, but we're still not out of the woods. Okay, well, what's next? Then it's pivoting, right? You pivot from where you were to what you need to do ahead.
So now you're going into the chemo phase. So, and knowing you're doing a ton of research. You're finding out all the side effects, what's going to happen, and did that scare you?
Of course it did. Yeah, absolutely. I'm human. You read.
Well, they proved that now.
right? I'm kind of bionic a little bit now. But you read things and you have to keep in mind that your story is not like anyone else's story. So I really tried to not Dr. Google too much and make sure that I was asking the professionals the questions that I needed to. And, I had a notepad everywhere I went because I would be driving somewhere and be like, oh, I need to ask this. And, oh, I'd be sleeping and I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and think, I need to remember to ask when I see the chemo oncologist about ABC. And so they were amazing and they're very good at their jobs. But I also have recognized that, you need to advocate for yourself because they have a lot on their plate and they don't know your whole story. You know your whole story. So asking all of the questions until you get all of the answers. And everyone said that to me, but I didn't really know what that felt like until going through it and feeling free to pick up the phone and call them afterwards to say, hey, I have 5 more questions. Can I drink wine on chemo? Like, is that a thing? Yes. You won't want to, but yes, you can, for anyone wanting to know. But
throwing that out there.
But yeah, I mean, you really can't get too far ahead of yourself. You really just need to deal with one thing at a time, what's right in front of you, and lean into the people that you need to. Again, we had amazing people that were there for us that I could pick up the phone and call, or that would send messages saying, hey, I'm here thinking about you. Do you need anything? People that have already been through this, local people from Norfolk that I know and love and that have been, great source of information and comfort to say, hey, I made it. You're going to do it too. Yeah. So
that's huge, eh?
Mm-hmm.
That team mentality that way as well.
Yeah.
So side effects, like you're on chemo, were you sick? Was it a lot of stuff going on or?
Well, I did say, and I will still say, I think I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. So I hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's my mentality, right? Always. So when I went into it, no, chemo is not a ton of fun, but it is manageable and they are getting better and better at managing the side effects from chemo. So I would have to take steroids the day before, the day of, and the day after, because chemo is very toxic to your body and it helped your body not react to the chemo. Well, it turns out I was allergic to the steroids they gave me. So then I needed to be boosted up on Benadryl to help with the side effects from the steroids. And pretty much, everyone's side effects are different depending on which chemo you do. The chemo that I had to do when I was getting my treatments through an IV, I was fortunate enough I didn't need a port. I could do it through IV. I had 2 different chemicals or medications that were put in via IV, one at a time, and each did their own thing. The one, I lost all my hair. It created neuropathy, so I had to wear what looked like oven mitts, but they were ice mitts on my hands and my feet. It's a great look. But it helped so that the drug didn't go into my fingertips and my toes, so I wouldn't have nerve damage and lose nails. And I'm fortunate. I have very little neuropathy in my hands and toes, so I'm grateful for that. But it did burn my entire digestive tract. So starting at my taste buds, it burnt all of my taste buds off, and you could feel it kind of coming. Some sores in my mouth, my sinuses, and then all the way through my digestive tract. So food going through was not ever fun. I really couldn't leave the house because you never knew what was going to happen, and it would change daily. And each treatment got progressively a little bit worse, but then we also got a little bit smarter so that we knew how to manage whatever side effects I was having.
How many treatments did you have again?
I had 4 chemo treatments, which I'm so grateful because I could have had 6 or 12 or so I only had 4 treatments. They were once every 3 weeks. I would go into the hospital to the chemo treatment center, and they had to do blood work first to make sure that I was ready. And then they would hook up an IV and it was dripped into me. And then when one was done, I would start the second treatment. And Yeah, thankfully, I don't have any lasting side effects other than a little neuropathy in my fingers and toes, but it's
Is that
manageable.
you're sitting there having that done? The thought process there, was it just like, just get through this, or were you already through that and moving on to the next thing? Like, I know you're probably looking at life, saying, oh, tomorrow I got to do this, or rest tomorrow. But was it, or you weren't? It didn't seem to me like, from our conversations, you weren't consumed by it. You said, no, I'm going to keep living. It
Yeah.
would be hard for me. I think I would be sitting there just freaking out, worrying about everything.
Oh, who's like
Oh, Murphy's up.
that? Murphy's up. Murphy's up. Somebody's delivering something. You know what? I think that you really just try to focus on what's right in front of you, but yet not think too deeply about it, if that makes
Okay.
sense, right? Like, yeah, I look down and I'm hooked up to IV, but I also brought a really good book and some snacks. And, it was time that I couldn't bring people in with me so I didn't really have anyone to visit other than the people around me. So it was nice catching up with other people, hearing their stories. I love hearing other people's stories. And it really helped me understand that my journey, everyone's journey is different, first of all, but my journey was not horrible compared to what some of the other people were going through, right? I mean, I had a good prognosis. Yeah, it wasn't comfortable, but at the end, it was like, yeah, you're going to be okay.
I'm
Awesome.
going to get through this.
Yeah. And some people don't get that news. And so that, it's for me, it was my reminder to just be grateful for everything.
Did you make friends? Did you meet some people there that?
Me?
How many? How many people did
How
you?
many people did I meet? I met a few. Yeah, absolutely. A very quick, funny story. There was a woman that started the same day her chemo. She had bowel cancer, and she finished chemo on the same day as I finished. And so every time we went in for treatment, it was like, chatting. And so I got to learn about her life, not her cancer, her life. And
Yeah.
she got to learn about my life. And the last day I was there, she was sleeping when I went to go leave. And I thought, I don't want to wake her, but I kind of want to get her information. And I never did. And I kicked myself for not getting her information so that we could stay in touch. And about a week and a half later, I had a little glitch. I wasn't feeling great. I was really struggling with my breathing. I called the cancer clinic and they said, you might have a blood clot. And we really want to get that looked at. And I said, oh, today? They were like, well, yep.
Yeah, today.
And so I went into Emerge and sat there, and they triaged me. And, you move from this room to this room, this room to this room. And I was sitting in the back room, and I looked up, and there she was. And I was like, Karen, what are you doing? And she's like, what are you doing here? And so we got to sit in the back room together and talk about kind of how we were feeling after our final treatment. And we exchanged information so that we could stay in touch. And, but yeah, every treatment, I got to talk to people because I was there for anywhere between 4 and 6 hours. So some people would come in and they'd only be, a half an hour to an hour. So I'd make friends with people, and I loved hearing other people's stories and hearing other people's positivity in whatever their circumstances were.
Well, I'm sure you provided them with some positivity too, knowing you. That's for sure.
Well, thanks, Dave.
So you've moved on from the chemo. You do the radiation, and how many was that?
There were 16. So I had gone to, first I went to London Hospital to talk to the radiation specialist there who wanted to do 25. And just communication glitches between London and Juravinsky. And so I ended up going to Juravinsky, and they said that because I was young and healthy enough, they were going to do the same 25 doses in 16. Which I was like, that's fine, because 16 doses, then I can get back to life. So I'd rather have them less doses be done sooner. So I did 16. And I mean, with radiation, you're in and you're out. You go in and there's no pain. There's nothing really involved. You can't really feel anything at the time of. It's just kind of the after effects, which again, doing due diligence, I didn't really have a lot of side effects after the fact, which I was really grateful for too.
I had a family member who I drove back and forth to Juravinsky, I think 2015 or 16. And one of the things that really hit me was just the amount of people that were in there. Like I could not fathom. I didn't understand at the time until I saw it. And then we ended up writing a piece on Jarabinsky because I was just so impressed. And some of the people that I met there and how strong they were and how, one thing I got a big sense of was just how caring all the doctors and nurses were. I'm sure you did too. Like that's their job every day, to try and help people stay alive. It's amazing. The doctors and nurses that took care of you at the different hospitals you're at. What can you say about that? I mean, they're going through COVID. And they're still in there. Like, I can't believe what they had to go through the last couple of years. About that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I had the best care. Their attitude towards patients, I mean, you've got to remember there are people coming in with not the best news. It's not expected. Who wants to be diagnosed with cancer? No, nobody. Who wants to have to go through the treatments? Nobody. It's not comfortable. It's not undoable, but it's not comfortable. And these people, nurses and doctors, show up day in and day out with smiles on their faces and joking and laughing. And they were phenomenal. I can't give them credit enough where credit is due. They are fantastic human beings for doing their job. And you're right, it's COVID and people are getting rescheduled and it's not comfortable. And, people are getting COVID, so you can't continue your treatments, which for me would have been devastating. I just wanted to get through it, as would anyone else. And so you're not always dealing with the happiest of people, you don't feel good, you don't want to be there, but they show up day in and day out. And I tell you, they all should have a medal for what they do daily.
I agree. Yeah. It's fantastic to see that, that so many people are dedicated to helping folks who are struggling with cancer and how they go about their day's work. It's like you said, it's incredible to watch.
Yeah.
For yourself after this journey, what can you tell us that you've learned, or we talked a little bit about what's changed in you. Can you elaborate on that and tell people, it's a life-changing situation that you're in, and knowing you, I still think you're the same person. You're the same energy that I've always come to enjoy. I'm always roar out at the end of our conversations, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But talk to us about that, because I don't think, I think you're probably that beacon of light too. I'm sure you've got calls from other people that are maybe starting to go through this, or, like you said, folks have supported you, but that energy that you've had, what's changed about you?
You know what? I think you're right. There's not a ton that's changed about me. I really think that, life is short. Enjoy it. Make sure you're doing due diligence with regards to your own health and wellness. I am a huge advocate now, especially for women going to get baseline mammograms early. I can't tell you how important that was in the discovery of my cancer, because without that, they may not have noticed the change from what was normal at 45 to what wasn't normal at 51. And I just enjoy life. The little things just don't matter. I mean, they never really mattered, but I stressed about, I'm very type A. You also know that about me, Dave. I'm very type A personality. I like things done well. It's very important to me to do a job very well and be proud of my accomplishments, but I still am those things. I don't worry about, what's tomorrow, what's next week, what's next month. I learn to hug the people that I love and keep them close even that much more, and tell them that I love them, and to just stop the stress. The stress levels are really an important thing. We go to the beach now and my husband will tell you, we go looking for beach class, which if somebody would have told me 5 years ago, you're going to spend your weekends, you're going to go to the beach, you're going to do beach class, I would have been like, you're crazy. I'm going to be working out all weekend. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Are you going to get back to that? Are you going to get back to working out a little bit? Is that one of your goals?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I enjoy being fit. I enjoy feeling, I want to be healthy. right? I want to still be here for my grandkids someday. I want to be able to chase them and run after them. So being physically fit is important to me, but yeah, and being healthy. This was just a little bump in the road.
Yeah, and I think what you're telling, the message, if you wanted to share a message to the other ladies out there, like you said, about getting a baseline mammogram done, and just supporting each other, right? I think that's what you and I were talking off air a little bit. Just the support from your family and your friends and your community is critical, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's living in a small town and growing up in a small town and having businesses in our small community of Norfolk County has really given so much back to us and so much support. But I mean, you also have to be able to lean into it. You also have to be able to ask for it if you need it and not be, if you're not well and you've been diagnosed with cancer, it's not a time to be quiet or ashamed that you need help. It's a time to be like, hey, I need support. And yeah, we've been really, really, really lucky, really super blessed. Norfolk people have, even though we don't currently live in Norfolk County, they are the best.
That's cool. All right, I gotta run, but thanks for doing this today. It's great talking to you and hanging out and catching up, and keep us up to date. I know that you'll be fine. You'll be back causing trouble in no time.
Me. Thanks, Dave, so much for having me.
Yeah, take care.